Hi guys, welcome to the PlayStation Access Podcast, the official podcast of PlayStation UK. You're listening to episode 4 of season 1, where we're talking about escapism, lonely games, and identity. That all sounds very thoughtful, but don't worry, we're only role-playing as serious people, and badly at that. Over this season, you can expect an introduction and deeper look at all things Access, so settle in for some cosy conversation from our world of PlayStation. Now, it's about time to escape, don't you think? Let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the PlayStation Access Podcast. I am your host, Ash the Dungeon Master, joined by Dave the Bard.
Oh, that's a pretty good one. I've done well there. Hello.
Rabiris Targaryen.
That's me. I don't know why I said it like that.
Are you role-playing there?
That's me, Robertus Targaryen.
Horrible. And Rosie, the NPC.
The NPC.
That is so perfect.
I mean, it's very true. I'm just a humble little NPC. Hello.
What side quests do you have for me today, Rosie the NPC?
Does anyone fancy a cup of tea?
Is that a
that a
side
side
quest?
quest?
Yeah. Side quest.
You have to answer yes or no.
Yes.
And then she punches
Well, I'm
you in the
afraid I'm
face.
missing the ingredients.
Yeah,
Please
okay.
can you grab me some
It's a
tea
fetch
bags,
quest.
some milk of preference, and some sugar.
Don't get the sugar from the office, though, because it's full of
Oh,
ants!
no. Yes. We've skipped into what's new here. Yeah, there are ants in the office, everyone. It's bad.
Anyway, to introduce the podcast, hello, welcome, we are PlayStation Access. Today we're going to be talking about video game escapism and narratives, which is very exciting. Lots of world building, storytelling, lore dispelling fun.
Wow, that was
Yeah.
good.
Oh,
I thought
yeah.
you were going to lose your way, but you didn't. You smashed it.
Oh, I was wobbling on the tightrope. I was wobbling. To let you know what's coming in this podcast, though, we have our main feature, which is escapism and video game narratives, as I've just said. We have comments of the week coming, which is community highlights from the hashtag Pod Squad.
Pod Squad.
We also have Before We Go, where we talk about some coverage outside of gaming. But first, I've got to ask you guys, what's new? So, here we are in the What's New section. Who would like to do the song?
Here. It's so different here. What's new?
Rob, you raised your hand. Were you going to do it then?
No, I don't know why I raised my hands.
Rob,
Now the hands have stayed
not
up.
a visual medium.
I think what I was thinking was why we don't do the song. We've got the sting. We don't need to do the song.
Yeah, but I like it.
We need to do the song for comments of the week later on.
It's just a personal What's New?
It's Dave's
Yeah.
creative flow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That lives on.
And anyone.
Yeah, but you
That's-
do it the best.
I think
Wow,
Ash's
that
then
just-
was pretty
yeah, that
good,
really
to be
hurt my
honest.
feelings, actually.
Yeah. She tried quite hard on that one.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of vibrato
I'm
and
sorry,
everything.
Ash, you also do it splendidly.
I feel like you in the face of Marilyn all over again.
Made Marilyn.
Made Marilyn.
But yes, what is new?
Good question.
This week, it is Mental Health Awareness Week. So from the 9th to the 15th of May, it is the 14th of May upon release of this podcast. So towards the tail end of it, which is hosted and campaigned for by www.mentalhealth.org.uk, which has loads of great resources to look at if this is a topic that applies to you or someone in your life. Loneliness is the theme of this week's kind of mental health week, where they've previously explored body image, kindness, and nature. So I just thought it might be a little bit of an interesting what's new moment to maybe talk about games that kind of focus on the human experience and loneliness in general, because there's loads out there that touch that kind of melancholic space of loneliness in a really interesting and engaging ways. So is there any that come to mind for you guys that you've played through that have kind of brought up that sense of exploring
All of my
that feeling?
favourite games are lonely games.
Yeah.
Journey, What Remains of Edith Finch, Dear Esther.
Journey's a really interesting one, just in terms of the
Yes, it doesn't have to be lonely, does it?
the
Of course.
multiplayer mechanic, which I haven't thought about for ages, and just remembered like how revolutionary it was at the time. Which I don't know if anyone remembers, but it was basically that just a random. It was kind of like a
Yes, I remember.
You'd be kind of invaded. It would just put you together with somebody out of the blue, and you just had one button that you could communicate with, which was just like a little ping, and you could
Yeah.
journey together or not.
That's
That
what I
was it.
liked about it, is that you didn't if they appeared in your game, you didn't have to stay with them. They didn't have to stay with you. They could if they wanted, but they could just, go off and that would be that. You could be with someone for maybe 10 seconds or the whole game.
Oh, that brought a memory back. I remember playing it in my bedroom and I found someone and we went on a full little adventure together. It was lovely. We waited for each other. We did the little ping.
That's nice.
It was
Nobody
lovely.
came into my game.
No one came into my game either. I was very lonely.
Yeah, I played it quite a few years after release, so I understand why nobody was in my game. I do like that was...
Well, wait a minute, why was no one in my game?
Oh,
What are you trying to say?
I can't explain that.
It's like it knows.
But that's the beauty of someone being there or someone not, and a game that explores that kind of the feeling. I love games that have feelings to them, and films and TV and all that sort of thing that has an emotion attached to it. And I kind of feel like the lonely subgenre of games, the reflective subgenre of games, I feel like it should more be called, is really interesting, and it brings out all these different things to think about. I've written a few more down as well as Journey, which is Firewatch, which I think is a great one, exploring like the human experience of being isolated from society but having that connection to someone in another tower that you speak to through your walkie-talkie.
Amazing moment in Firewatch, isn't there? Sorry to interrupt. And it's terrifying as well. And I think we spoke about it briefly in the horror episode last time, where you get radioed by your friend and she says to you, "Oh, what are you doing back in your tower?" And you're like, "I'm not in my tower." Who is then? And it's like all of a sudden you spend so long on your own, and then the thought that someone else is in your little space. Chilling.
Yeah, I think things like Subnautica as well have that feeling. Obviously, you're like the only person on a massive planet full of water, but it's teeming with life. It's teeming with different things, just not the life that you're used to. I also think Hollow Knight is an extremely...
I was going to say Hollow Knight.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, and there are people the whole way through, bugs you can talk to. There's bugs with the sickness that you're experiencing all the time. So you are, again, surrounded by life, however twisted, but it has that sense of just solitude and calm, gentle exploration and reflectiveness with this beautiful, melancholy, gloomy soundtrack in the background.
I was thinking about What Remains of Edith Finch as well.
Yeah.
It's just, obviously that's like a one person's journey back through the memories of their family, like within a house, and it's very introspective, and the whole thing is, I mean, it's you don't meet anybody else at any point. You just hear about them, and I don't know, it's so introspective. And then also, for some reason, the very first thing I thought of was Limbo and Inside, which are quite scary, and I sort of associated loneliness in that moment when you asked the question with kind of being a bit scared, I guess, like being completely alone, without I don't know, those games in particular where you are just like a helpless boy or pretty helpless who doesn't, you the player has no understanding of the world or no idea why it's like the way it is, and there's no one to turn to ask, no one offering any help. You just have to go through it and figure it out. It's super lonely.
For sure, definitely. I have this like vague memory in the back of my head, which I don't think suits the game, but in my head it feels like one of these lonely reflective games, which is beyond good and evil. I think it's just because it's so pensive and you're taking pictures with the camera of like massive like floating beasties and stuff. It's not a lonely game, but I remember having that feeling about it, which I have nothing more to say on it. Just that was one of the first early experiences where I was like, I've got like this pensive feeling whilst playing a game. And I think sometimes that's really effective and useful and kind of heartwarming in an ironic sense, because someone else has felt the same way that you have or made an experience that dives into that, and there is connection in that disconnect and in that isolation. But at the end of the day, games are not here as a solution. They are a medium to express things in, and if this is something that you're struggling with, then please head to the Mental Health Foundation website, which has loads of resources. So to move on to our next point for meditative games coming up, which have released this week, Unpacking came out this week.
Yes.
At time of recording.
NPC Rosie, what happened? Glitch in the recording.
NPC Rosie had a cold last week, and it's still, sometimes it likes to just hang around a little bit.
I'm sat next to you. Keep your germs to yourself.
I've been trying to keep my germs as much to myself as possible. NPC Rosie's been chilling in her NPC corner.
What is
No
your-
one's been going to speak to NPC Rosie.
No one presses X on NPC Rosie
No
anymore.
one's interested in any of your side quests.
Not even your own cosmetic, the face mask that you could offer to
Yeah,
people.
that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, Unpacking has launched this week. At time of recording for this podcast, it is the day that Unpacking is coming out.
Today.
Woo! So we're going to be playing that this week in our own time,
Yes.
having a little bit of fun. Unpacking a Life is the theme of it, where you go through boxes and decorate rooms and kind of discover what life is within them and where it's going. So you make the story for yourself. And I'm really excited to play this. This is an award-winning game. Have you guys been looking out
I've
for it?
been really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've been
obviously
looking
it's
forward
been
to
like a very critically acclaimed, and I've heard lots of buzz about it. And so I'm really excited to play it. And also, not to get too how the sausage is made, but I've been doing a lot of packing this week because we're hoping to move our office soon. And so I've been like, and it's kind of weirdly existential packing and unpacking, I guess, is the point. But like, the number of little things I've come across and all the hopes and dreams that were tied up with those
The
things.
Casper
like,
ball.
yeah,
Yes!
Casper ball, exactly. So yeah, I feel like I'm just very in the mood to play this game. It feels like I'm really, really ready to do it because I've been going through my own bit of packing and will soon be going through my own bit of unpacking. So
Yeah, I feel like Unpacking and also kind of the reflective games we've been talking about all tie into the video game narrative kind of theme of this week's episode. And I'm very ready for just a narrative experience. After sinking so many hours into Elden Ring, I'm ready to just have like a tight little few hours thinking about life and looking at someone's story instead of carving out my own for a bit and then go back to Elden Ring afterwards. Like,
Yeah.
I just need a moment.
I took some time out of Elden Ring. This is just about me to finish Trek to Yomi, which Rob and I streamed last week, and I've been playing it since, and really, really enjoyed it. It's so photogenic.
Did you finish it?
I finished it. Yeah.
Wow.
Really love the.
Just love the wow.
I think it's a really interesting game, and I had a lot of fun with it, and it's so photogenic. I took loads of screenshots, which I really don't often do. There's no photo mode or anything. I was just having to like position my character and just try and get it mid. So many fights lost by trying to get a screenshot. But then last night, after finishing it, I went back to Elden Ring, and I just could not remember how to do the combat because I've learned this whole other system of R1 and R2 and L1, and I just floundered about for about 10 minutes and then thought, I'll come back to this another day. That is the problem with a game like Elden Ring, is it can be hard to... You take a little break and you come back and it will punish you. Where have you been, boy? It says.
I've been in Yomi.
Yeah.
But speaking of Elden Ring, I actually do have an interesting piece of news to finish off our What's New section, which you guys said you hadn't heard of. Rosie, I think you have.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
There's this legend, right, in Elden Ring, which has been a few weeks now. So this isn't like new news. This is just new news to use.
Right, so what you're saying is Rob and I are really out of the loop.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds about right.
We don't know about the news.
What's a meme?
Was this on the newspaper? I only read Broad Street. What is this?
Sheets. So yeah, there's an Elden Ring player, right? A legendary Elden
Is
Ring.
this real?
Oh, my
Not-
name's
not a
finally
meme.
got out.
Yes, yeah, it is
This is
real.
real.
It is real. I like the two different versions of that. Dave thinking that it's him, and Rob
It is me.
questioning its existence.
I'm telling you now, it's not me. Sorry. I don't know what this is. Tell me.
So the name of this player is Let Me Solo Her. And they only appear when the circumstances are right, when the full moon blazes above ahead in the sky, when the grass ripples with the winds of change, when Melania, Blade of Miquella, steps forth, brandishing her weapon, ready to fight. Let Me Solo Her is available as a summon. Now, this kind of came up as someone did their summoning to be like, oh, I'm struggling with Melania, and got this person called Let Me Solo Her. They appeared naked with a jar on their head and two katanas, and the player just
Classic.
let them solo her because they were
Yeah,
like, right,
what's the
well,
name?
this is confident, and just did like beautiful, masterful destruction
Wow.
of Melania. And this is as such become a legend in the Elden Ring community. Well, Let Me Solo Her is coming to nearly 1,000 Melania kills.
What?
Literally, they are so close.
How do you track that stat?
I have no idea. I think they must just carve it into their skin and naked body every time they defeat her.
This is an actual real person.
Yeah.
And they've called themselves Let Me Solo Her.
Yeah.
And they put their sign down next to this boss.
Yeah.
And then solo it.
Yeah.
This reminds me
That's
of
crazy.
when Nath was talking about beating defiled chalice amygdala
Yeah.
in Bloodborne, and how he couldn't do it for ages until some absolute lunatic who was naked turned up and killed amygdala. Maybe it's the same person.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my God.
I hope so.
Good bit of lore there.
I really hope so.
That we should ask. Is it you? The famed
No,
naked
we'll
slayer
definitely get
of
an honest
amygdala?
answer back. Yeah. Is
think
it you out there?
Everyone
Yes.
in hashtag Pod Squad will be like, it was me. It
was
was
me."
me.
They know who Let Me Solo Her is because they've made a Reddit page to talk about their Melania experiences, which is why they know they've nearly done 1,000 Melania kills.
love
Today,
this.
we're recording this is the 10th, so I think they're doing, perhaps they'll have hit 1,000 by the time that this airs on
That's
Saturday.
crazy.
I love this. I love this kind of... You don't get this anywhere else. Only video games.
Yeah.
This is like unique creation of our own stories and legends and lore that the developers would never have been able to conceive. And I always loved the idea before I ever started an MMO. Before I started Final Fantasy XIV, I was like, I'm going to be like... I had daydreams of being the highest level possible and like appearing in the games of noobs. A flash! Killing these amazing and then disappearing, and then everyone speak. Did you see that level 100 amazing warrior?
Did you see their
who
armor?
just came through? Did you see their armor? Did you see how easily they took down the boss? I love that kind of thing. I never did it, obviously.
There's still time.
Oh, thanks for clearing that up,
But,
Rob. I was I must admit that it stresses me out a little bit, and just the commitment. Oh, I just find it it must be terrifying, and like the bravado, or that's maybe the wrong word, just the confidence to do it, to call yourself that. Like
The
as
cockiness.
soon as you don't solo her, I feel like the legend's broken. It's like, oh yeah, they came in my game, but they didn't. They failed. I'd just be like, oh, so much stress, self-imposed stress.
They must be so good at it that they just
No
know
doubt.
how it's done.
I know, but I don't know how good you've got to be. I've not
Well,
done
that's
that fight yet, I don't think so.
When you go into multiplayer in Elden Ring, your stats also get nerfed. So this
Yeah.
person is going. I'm not sure if. You know, whenever I've gone into someone else's world, I'm not as strong as I am if I do something like in my own game. So I'm presuming that this person can not only solo, but can do it with the nerfs taking place as well.
Yeah, well,
So-
they're already naked. I mean, that's already
Yeah,
impressive.
They must
already
just know the
naked.
moves. They must just know the moves inside out, and so it just doesn't matter what their stats are.
How do you do it? I know the moves.
Oh, I'll tell you who else knows the moves. Let Me Solo Her is Rosie. No, but I tell you also who knows the move. Rosie has platinumed Elden Ring. Tell us
I
about that,
have.
Rosie.
Oh my gosh, yes. I have platinumed Elden Ring. My big...
Great.
Thanks, Rosie.
That's my prep top. I will see you in a couple of
Unlock
weekends'
the secret
time.
dialogue options here. It's just going to go on and on and on. I just want to go on my quest every time I press X.
I'm skipping this dialogue. Yeah.
Blap, blap.
My dialogues now. I have the platinum for Elden
Skip.
Ring. I have the platinum. I have the platinum for Elden Ring.
Just give me the face mask cosmetic.
But no, yeah, it was. In all honesty, when I got it, I
Skip.
mean,
Sorry, Rosie.
That was cruel.
That was
I know
cruel.
It was. Sorry, Rosie, go on.
I finished Elden Ring and I got the platinum in the same night because I finished it. I got the ending that I chose, and the last two trophies I needed was the other two endings. So I was, I maybe should have gone to bed, but I was just
Was it
so
9:30?
It was around like 10. It was around like 10 o'clock. And I thought, when you're doing something for the first time without knowing, you're watching all the cutscenes and you're fully,
Yeah.
and you do the bosses, and the final boss I died. I think I got it in my third attempt, but you do some deaths, you have to do it again. But then when I went to do it for the other two endings, literally there's a character who starts talking. I just ran in and just started slashing them like, come on, get out the way. I want to get the platinum. But it was, when I finally got it, it was such a weird feeling. And yeah, like now it's done. I was just like,
What's
my God,
next?
like
Yeah.
you know, I haven't been watching any films or watching TV. It's purely just been this big
Have
investment.
you been eating?
I've been eating.
Okay, that's good.
I've been eating.
I was worried. How do you rate it as a platinum? Like, how much did you enjoy it? How do you feel about it?
I really enjoyed it. Most of the trophies are bosses, which you know I really like that. And not only that as well, but there are so many bosses in Elden Ring. Unless you like reveal the hidden trophies, but you don't know which bosses are going to be popping up the trophy. So literally every boss I did, I think I mentioned this either in the pilot podcast episode or the first episode, but I always do. When they defeated, I turn around and walk away like a boss.
Yeah.
I
So
saw someone on Twitter doing that, Rosie,
Yeah.
and crediting you as inspiration.
Yeah.
it's so satisfying.
You should just do
Literally,
a compilation. You should do that as a short.
I could.
Beating bosses and walking away from them like you don't care.
Like you
Yeah.
don't. Honestly, I've done it every time I did. So all my platinum, all my trophy screenshots, just walking away. But in terms of getting the platinum, it's a lot of fun. And because I was exploring so much of the world anyway, the things which are similar, you know, when you have Bloodborne, when you have to find all the certain weapons and stuff. Most of those came naturally. However, there was one. And there's like one missable item for this trophy, and of course, little old Rosie missed it. Like you know, I've been exploring the world.
There's one line of NPC dialogue that was mistakenly done by another voice actor.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. That was placeholder.
Rosie was ill, so they were like, quick, we need this line. Little old Rosie, hello. I'm going to make you a cup of tea. Because that's what my NPC said earlier. But apart from that, absolutely had a wonderful time getting the platinum with it. Bosses were great. Story was great. Wonderful experience.
No, it is hard. Like I'm impressed with the platinum and the commitment you did to getting all the endings and going back. And it sounds bonkers. I'm excited to not do that.
Me too. How did Alex do it in like 2 weeks or something?
He did it in like less than 100 hours.
It's
Yeah,
mental.
he did it in 90.
Yeah, which is mad.
But did he enjoy it?
Did he?
Did he?
Rosie,
I think-
did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it. I loved it. But Alex did say to me, he was like, because he really wanted to get it, he did say, I recall him saying to me, he felt he missed a lot of the game as well because he was purely playing
Yeah.
it to get the trophies.
Definitely,
So he
yeah.
was like, you've probably seen so much more of the game and fought so many more bosses.
I love how you're just paraphrasing Alex here. Like, you were just so much better at
Yeah, I
this.
think he said,
Literally,
God, you're amazing.
As I was saying it, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be interpreted wrong. And I don't mean it for it to come out this way, but my mouth is talking.
Guys, it's time. I'm moving us on. It's time for the main feature. Hey guys, we're in the main feature.
I love it here.
Yeah, how did we get here?
Whoa, a little bit of music and everything changes. So our main feature this week is video game narratives and escapism. And I kind of bundled those together because I feel like what we are talking about is video games as a form of escapism. But for me, narrative is a really important part of that. So I wanted to ask you guys some questions kind of surrounding that as well. The main crux of this discussion is, can you only escape into a game if it has a linear narrative? So that's kind of the overarching question here. Do you need a narrative to use video games as escapism? So the first question that I have for you to kind of link into that is, what would you define escapism as, and do you think it's present in video games?
I'm going to let someone else go first because I feel like I might have a contrary experience of this. But so,
Wow.
Rob or Rosie, what do you
Well,
think?
It's definitely present in video games. Absolutely. Some of my favourite escapisms have happened in video games. I absolutely don't think it's a prerequisite that a video game has a linear narrative to be able to offer escapism. In fact, the times I have felt most escaped while playing games is when I have escaped, not just from my own life, but from the story of the game. Like my favourite game to play, which will come as probably a surprise to no one, is Skyrim. And I like, my favourite way to unwind is to get lost. That's what I like to call it. So that's why I like to go on long
Get
walks.
lost,
I just
Rob.
get lost. I like to get lost. Sometimes I'll just walk and I'll just keep walking. And I like to do that in games as well. Skyrim is brilliant for that. You don't have to do anything in Skyrim. I could just pick a direction and walk, and you just find things, and it lets your mind wonder as well. And I think I like the fact that the word wander and the word wonder are so very closely linked.
I love how the emphasis on the different pronunciation.
They're almost the same. There's wonder, which means to sort of walk aimlessly, and to wonder, which sort of means, that can mean to think aimlessly. And I think those two things are often intrinsically linked, like one can lead often to the other. And that is how I like to escape in video games. But having said that, my first memory of real video game escapism was Final Fantasy VII, and that was because I got so swept up in that story that I couldn't think about anything else for a good 3 or 4 weeks, however long it took me to play through that game. I'd be going to bed at night thinking about it. I'd wake up in the morning thinking about it. I used to love reading fantasy literature, and Final Fantasy VII was like that, but in video game form. And I remember just being completely blown away by it.
See, when I think of video game escapism, with escapism being this kind of form of completely forgetting about the real world and diving into a new one, I love stories and I love world building, and I would want to be taken on an adventure and a tale. I do not think that a game needs a linear narrative, but I do think it does need a narrative.
I disagree with that.
Well,
but I'll let you carry on first.
Oh, thanks, Rosie.
I will permit it.
I think narrative is the most important feature for me, and I totally recognise that's not going to be for everyone, but the games that I've felt most removed from reality are ones where there is this overarching story, there's a goal, there's a world that's built with lore I want to explore, with people I want to talk to, with a drive to, even if it's just farming, there's maybe making that story for myself. Again, there's a narrative there. I need a story.
I guess it depends what you, sorry to quickly butt in, but what you mean by story.
Rosie won't like this.
Sorry. Well, when I wander around, when I'm wandering around Skyrim, for example, I'm not following the critical path.
Yeah.
But there is, if you want to get a bit pretentious with it, you could say there is story bound up in just the place, just existing in it. You're sort of creating your own story.
Yeah.
So
yes. So this is the thing, like I would probably disagree with my own question here that it needs a linear narrative. I just think story is the most important part, and I think we probably agree. Thinking of Skyrim, like my time in Skyrim was definitely super immersive because I was taken on the stories, but I was usually following a quest or following a person or following this, that or the other. Elden Ring has been kind of the first time where I've really gone truly, oh, what's that in the distance? I'll go and look at it. But then I feel like stories kind of emerge from that and lore emerges from that, and you're piecing together a narrative that makes, a traversal through the beginning to the end, the linear narrative. But Rosie, tell me your point.
Well, all I was going to say was, like, when you said that you felt that story was pivotal for escapisms, I mean, like you were saying, I think escapism is just if you're playing a game, you're able to completely isolate, the real world and be fully engulfed in what you're experiencing. But personally, I've also found escapism in games which, platformers, or like Cuphead, for example. When I was playing that, I was so focused on the battle and the precision and getting things, as good as I could possibly be. I did shut out the rest of the world. I escaped from it just so I could purely focus on what I was doing there. And with the music playing and the visuals, I fully escaped in that little world. So I completely, I've played so many wonderful games where, like you said, I haven't played Skyrim, but games similar to that where you're just walking around. Horizon Zero Dawn, when I played that, I was so ready to just escape to this world with these awesome machines roaming around. But all I wanted to say was that I don't think having a wonderful story is, the core of it. It can also be just if you want to hone in on something. Yeah, like even, like a game like Tekken 7, for example, there's a lot of people I can imagine who, let's say they've had a rough day at work, they'll come home and they will just play Tekken 7, just completely zoning everything out and then honing in on their skills.
I'm not sure if I have anything to add as such. I think like I've agreed with everything everyone said. Really, the thing I was, which is nice. The thing I was thinking was, personally, I think I'm very bad at escapism. I don't know that I have ever truly escaped from my life into some other kind of, into
Truly?
a story. Yeah.
You don't think you've ever just forgotten everything and been totally in a game?
No, I feel like I've been really invested in games, and whilst you were talking then, I was thinking actually about stories I've been really invested in, and I think actually some of the Quantic Dream games have been the best for that for me. Definitely Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human. I was totally invested in those games, but I don't know that I've ever escaped my life. And I think like the big sort of telltale examples of that are RPGs, anything with decisions. I never ever, I just play as me. Like kind of average nice man. Never do any sort of evil stuff. Never do anything kind of crazy. And like I think games have these amazing options for that. And I always want to try and role play. It's an RPG, it's a role playing game, and I always want to try and play the role. But ultimately, I just play Dave. In Skyrim, I'm just Dave in Skyrim, or in
Dave, I'd love that. Dragonborn. Dave.
Oh, okay. Oh, up that big mountain. I'll do that later. Like, not doing that. Like, I'm sure that's not completely true, and I've generalized about my own experience, but I do think I'm really, really bad at it. The only time I made a real conscious decision to not be like that was playing Cyberpunk 2077 when it came out on PS5 earlier this year. And unfortunately, it came out right before Horizon Forbidden West, and then it came out right before Elden Ring. And so I only played a couple of hours of it before I then played Horizon, and then I played Elden Ring. But for those couple of hours, before I started playing, I made a real conscious effort, and I think this is because we had done our tabletop RPG on the channel where I was Jimmy Mutiny. I didn't think I'll be Jimmy Mutiny, but I thought I'm going to really try and play a character. So I thought about the character I wanted to play. I wanted to play as a really evil corporate woman, and I did that for about 3 hours. I really enjoyed it, and it changed the game for me. Like thinking like, not what would Dave do in this world, but like, who is my character and what would she do? Or how would she take someone being insubordinate and stuff like that? So I feel like there's this whole massive world of escapism that I've just like barely scratched the surface of. I've definitely had lots of Zen experiences of games, like we've talked about playing Gran Turismo and stuff, where you just are going round and round and round, and my mind like escapes the shackles of the everyday there, and I listen to music and have like a very, very nice Zen kind of transcendent almost time. But when we think about narrative especially, I feel like I'm very tied to me and my morals and my experience of life, and I kind of regret that.
I see. This is interesting because I had some questions about whether you play as you or another character in my little plan sheet.
Yeah.
But I don't. Hearing you say that, I don't think escapism needs to be you're totally someone else, like you are a brand new person with no ties to your life. I feel like putting yourself in another location where all your worries melt away, and now you're worried about saving the world from evil galactic monsters who feast on brains, is still a form of that. So my interpretation of what you're saying would still absolutely fill the role of escapism. You're still getting out there, you're still doing something different, you're still engaging with this world in a super immersive way. But I don't think you need to box yourself off by saying I must be a different character. No,
I suppose it's not just that. I do think that that's a big part of it. Is like, I hear Rob talking about being the taxi driver serial killer.
Yeah, that's just Rob.
You're right. What am I talking about? That's Rob. You've got to escape that in video games. Escape the day-to-day.
It's less escapism and more liberation, isn't it? Video games also permit you to
be a serial killer,
do things without consequence.
Yeah.
And to I don't want to go too much further into this because you get the usual Rob.
Oh, Rob. That is how we talk.
Lol.
I do think like I was just thinking then when you were saying about escaping into a world, I'm quite bad as well at consuming. I feel quite guilty about not consuming everything a world has to offer. For example, I think a good one of that, everybody loves The Witcher 3. And I think that everyone loves it a lot more than me. And I think one of the reasons for that is that I'm not very good at consuming lots of lore that there is out there. There's lots of that people really pay attention to side quests and written bits and pieces in that game and the cutscenes and the story. And I'm quite like a gameplay driven character. So if it's not directly from gameplay, I don't take it on as well, I think. That's why I really enjoy something like Elden Ring, because so much of the experience is right there in front of you. Like the wonder of it isn't tied up in conversation. There are weird conversations, but they're actually kind of few and far between. When you meet someone who speaks, I sort of like take it on the chin. But like just the world, what is going on is there in your face all the time. Like the questions are being asked all the time, and it's not confined to cutscenes or particular side quests even. It's just like the exploration of the world is has loads and loads of narrative to consume, and I find it easier to escape through gameplay than like through actual kind of like conversations and story.
Yeah. See, this is another interesting thing that I had in my bullet points about whether you prefer like a story or gameplay, because there's a whole world of multiplayer that we haven't spoken about, which I would still argue is a form of escapism. I wouldn't even argue it. I would just say it's a type of escapism where you and your friends or you and some strangers can all bundle into a game, do something that has like no story, no purpose, just mess around, but free of the constraints and liberating, as Rob would say, yourself from the everyday existence. And that is something completely different that takes you out of the real world and immerses you somewhere else as well, which is really interesting. Like something like Rocket League, where you're playing like giant ball cars as it's called,
ball car,
or when I've played like couch co-op games like Overcooked, and even then when you're in the room with someone else, it's still you're in the kitchen is where you are. You're in the kitchen, everything changes. Like I turn into a different person when I play that, because I'm screeching at people and I make them call me chef, because it's just this is how it is. It's like,
I don't know why we haven't
chef,
streamed this
call
yet.
me chef. Yeah, well, we played a little bit on the channel.
We streamed it when you were on holiday.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
you decided to go on holiday when they released the brand new Overcooked.
That was very smart of me. I think
it was funny. It was funny. I booked it into the calendar, got the code sorted, then was like, bye. Bye, chef, is what they all said. But yeah, I think there's an interesting facet of escapism to be explored there, because like Rosie and Rob, would you kind of agree that multiplayer has the same sort of escapism for you as something with a narrative? Like this is where the linear narrative, or like narrative in general, becomes the bridging point. Do you think it needs that story, or do you think you can get the same level of escapism from playing around with your mates, messing around?
Absolutely. I don't think it needs it, but what constitutes escapism for one person is going to be different to another, and I think all forms of escapism are valid. Like you can absolutely get escapism through playing multiplayer. Me personally, not so much, but I have done in the past. When Metal Gear Online first came out, when Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence was released, I very much threw myself into that. And it's a different type of escapism, isn't it? It's more like a hobby you enjoy. The escapism of being lost in something fun that you do with your friends. You could say playing football is escapism. If by definition escapism means getting away from the stresses and worries of real life.
I was going to say, like, I think that, because I said I don't think I'm so good at consuming stories, but then when you've spoken about multiplayer, I was going to say one of the big powerful things about multiplayer, I think, is that the stories that come out of that, you write them, and I don't mean like in-world stories as much as just like things that happen. I can think of so many... Sorry? Anecdotes, yeah. I can think of so many anecdotes that I could tell you about multiplayer games I've played in the past, like very specific things that wouldn't be very interesting to you, but like with the people I played with, we can like, do you remember? And that made me think about our Master League, Rob. That was huge escapism actually, and we play with the original Master League team.
So I've just seen Rosie and Ash just
roll their eyes. Yeah, like back away from the microphones. Like, we won't need to speak for a while. But yeah, we play with the original Master League players, and that means they don't come with any backstory. I mean, I don't really follow football, but Rob does. And so if he plays with Ronaldo, that means something to him. But if he plays with Petorbanov, who's not real,
a pretend player,
then Petorbanov is a blank slate, and his story becomes clear by playing the game with him, and we find out like if he's good, if he's bad, what he's good at, all that kind of stuff. And so that was like Rob and I played every lunchtime for like 3 years, probably at least.
When we went on a trip once, we took Pez to the hotel, and we must have stayed up playing Pez for 5 hours that night.
And it was all about the story.
Great.
It's all about the story. Like our team, a rubbish team.
They don't care, Dave. Look
I know. Like, oh, well done.
Get on with it.
Taking them, but taking it. I'm quite excited about this because I'm like, I'm not very good at escapism, and then I realised like I had this whole massive bit of escapism, and it was about the story. Like it just happened to be told through football, which is something I'm not very interested in. But I was invested in this team and their story, and our story of trying to like win stuff so we could get some money to buy better players to make. It all sounds quite boring, but it was great, and it was escapism. And so I think multiplayer games, I mean, that was just co-op, obviously, and you can have that experience without it being multiplayer. But it was great. Like Rob and I shared that, and I think it made it more powerful. If it was just me on my own, I probably would have given up. I wouldn't have even started playing, but because we did it together, it was a lot of fun, and it made it much more kind of like I was much more invested in it.
That's nice.
We've kind of got Rosie and Ash back now. You can come back in now.
I have another question just to kind of round this off. Is there anything you felt like so immersed in? Because I feel like that's the key word here is immersion. Is there anything you felt so immersed in that you've just not cared about the story at all? Like it's whether that's through writing your own or being so present in the moment that nothing else kind of mattered in the game. Is there a game that kind of stands out to you that had that experience? Or if that's a struggle for something to come up with off the top of your head, then a video game narrative that's stuck with you.
Go on, Rosie.
Sorry, I was just going to quickly say, I mean, I know these games have really, really, really good stories, but from software titles, for me, in all honesty, like I love the stories and I love the videos that people create afterwards when people have gone in depth reading every single thing, talking to every single character, and then piecing together and I love trying to like piecing together the story, and I love trying to figure that out myself, but I still get just as that same sense of escapism just being me, like Rosie the strong knight who handles a heavy shield, heavy armor, and a heavy sword. So I still become that character even when I don't know what's going on in the story. Like if something happens, I'm like, oh, I remember something referencing that. Oh, I understand what's going on here. But if there's something where I don't know what's going on or why a certain character suddenly appears, I'm like, hey, I'm still completely immersed in this world. I will, I'll look into this once I've done this fight or something like that.
I totally agree. I'm the same. I'm not smart enough or attentive enough to understand the stories in the From Software games, but I've loved being in those worlds, and I like, I've been completely immersed in them without having a clue what I'm doing or why I'm doing it a lot of the time.
Yeah, like a big thing happens in the story and the character's like, you did a thing, and it's like, yeah, I did the thing. But no, yeah, I could still get completely escaped in those worlds, and I love them to pieces, and I love learning about the story afterwards from people who are much smarter than I am, who can piece it all together. But it's not my key reason for escaping in those games.
To be honest, speaking personally, like I said, I'm quite bad at stories. I'm quite bad at following along. Apart from the big key beats, I don't get too invested in stories, but I do think I get immersed in the world. So I'm quite good at doing that. I think that I'm missing a lot of the point. I think I miss a lot of the joy there is to be had. I'm kind of jealous of people who really get into stories and know these characters and feel every sort of moment. But I'm much more of a gameplay-based player, generally speaking. So I do feel like I'm immersed in worlds, and so often like, the story isn't as important to me personally. So I think that's true of like a lot of games, really. Unless it's very simple, I just follow the key beats. Apart from that, if it gets too much into nuance, I think it's lost on me, which makes me a little bit sad.
If we're talking about immersion as like a visceral experience of feeling like you're in a place, regardless of what the story is, I think for me, Death Stranding is up there.
Yeah.
Rarely have I encountered a video game world that I think so... I don't know what the word would be, so powerfully captures that feeling of being in a place than Death Stranding does. I don't know whether I don't know whether it's something to do with the lighting. Like, it's a very natural looking light in that game. Just the huge expanse of world there is. Also, it doesn't look like a video game. Like, open world video games often have a look to them. Like, you can see the gaminess in them sometimes. Like, you see a mountain and you can see a path of where your character is supposed to traverse up the mountain. You can see coloured handholds and, you know where the game wants you to go. Whereas Death Stranding looks like just a chunk of earth. Like, the mountains and the rivers and all of the landscapes look so natural.
That's the stuff you like.
I do like it. And obviously a lot of playing Death Stranding is walking around delivering stuff. But being in that place, I felt cold. You could almost smell the rain. Fantastic. So in terms of just being immersed in a game, Death Stranding for me.
I feel like I've spoke about this on the channel, but the most immersed that I've ever been in a story outside of just playing it and enjoying it was when I started having dreams about Dragon's Dogma that I was like in
I forgot about this.
Yeah,
it's
like,
so good.
When I get really, really invested in something, like I get a bit tunnel visioned on it. Like, I'm like, right, okay, yeah, this is my favorite thing ever. I'm going to learn everything about it and do everything in it and watch videos on it. And, like, everybody has their thing that they're like, right, yeah, okay. And Dragon's Dogma was the one for me with that, where I was just exploring everything and doing everything, and it seeped into my subconscious brain. And I kept having dreams where I was like a person who could transform into a dragon who was trying to save the cities, and I died in battle and woke up. And it was really stressful, because in the dream it had really lasted for about 5 years. Like, years had passed, and I woke up.
God.
It was like Narnia. It was fully like Narnia. I woke up and I was like, I'm a school child.
Oh my God,
but I've
that's
lived
intense.
so many lives.
Wow. I love that, especially because it's Dragon's Dogma, which is like a slightly lesser well talked about, I think, RPG.
Yeah.
To be fair, I remember Rob covering that on Access when we first started. I think that's great. I'm a bit jealous. I'd like to have an immersion so deep.
I want to dream.
I have a 5-year dream, where I can turn into a dragon.
Oh, well, it's ups and downs, let me tell you. Get it? 'Cause I'm on the wind.
Very good.
I think kind of one last question I do want to ask. I know we're running a bit long on this bit, but I do want to ask is, are you more drawn to games where you can create your own character and you are the Dragonborn, you are, a random knight, you are the chosen one, whoever who has this name, but is your own malleable character? Or do you like playing as a person with a personality, like your Geralt, like, your Nathan Drake? What are you drawn to that makes you feel more involved in these stories? Or is it mix and match?
I think mine's quite obvious. As I've said, probably, like, I tend to play as Dave, so I quite like playing as Geralt or as Nathan Drake or whoever, because I can piggyback on them. I can see how they deal with situations.
Template escapism.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you still have to make decisions in those games, and then the Dave seeps in. I'm not very good at thinking, like, what would Geralt do? I just think, I'd be nice. So I quite like, and also I'm bad. I don't like the stress of character customization. I hate it, because I'm like, I don't know what character I should make. I don't know what character other people expect me to make. I don't know how to make the character, if I can even think of one. I find it very stressful, so I either like hit random a few times or just go with the default
This
character.
surprises me so much as like a Dungeons and Dragons like tabletop player. I know you play that.
I do. I play a Star Wars one, and but it's the only one I play, and maybe I'm not very good at that. you'd have to ask my friends, but I do. I really get stressed out by character customization, and I like being told a story, I think, and the choice. I don't like. It's like decision fatigue. Ask me to make a decision or a choice, and I get quite stressed out about
Coffee
it.
or tea?
What's the right? What right now? I'd have a coffee, but
Well, I don't have
forever. I don't know. Like, I do. I get stressed out. What's the right choice? What's the right choice?
It's a joke question. You still managed to stress him out.
Exactly. So I like being given a ready-made character with a personality and an adventure, and I like enabling them to have their adventure, and I watch how they feel about things.
Yeah.
I love both of them equally. I mean, I'm someone, I get very invested in characters who, are pre-made already in the world, and I get very invested in a character that I've customized and called Rosie.
That's the trick. Call it Rosie, and she's
call
invested.
It Rosie. Like, I hear when Rob's like, "Oh, Roberus" and stuff. Oh, Roberus Targaryen.
Roberus Targaryen.
When I hear your stories, and I'm there, I'm like, okay, I should try and come up with a name. And the best name I came up with was Rosie the Third when I did a Final Fantasy 14 character.
Not even the first Rosie.
Why would you be the first Rosie?
Because I was looking around my room for inspiration, and I saw my Blu-rays, and I had Lupin the Third there, and I was like, Rosie the Third. Boom, that's my fantasy name. So
Okay.
that's where Rosie the Third came from. But I'm terrible at coming up with names and stuff. Like I said, any character I get fully invested in, and I love them all to pieces. So I have as equally a wonderful time and escape in the universe, no matter who I'm playing. I also love it as well in games like if you're playing Dead by Daylight, and like if you're the killer in Dead by Daylight, Rob, you did it brilliantly, where one time you were the killer and you fully became the killer. You fully just went like completely silent, apart from just every now and then you just hear you say like a yes or something, and then
As
you
killers
like a
do.
killer would.
like I don't remember what you did, but you fully became the role. I think that like you became the role of the killer.
You would know. Yeah.
How did you do it, Rob?
Why was
How
I
did you
like-
imagine what it was to be a killer so well? I just don't know. How did
How
you do
do
it?
I act sober?
So yeah, I think both experiences just as easily and fun.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, Rob, you call yourself Roberus Targaryen.
Yeah, it's just a more
In everything.
interesting name
Yeah,
than
but
Robert Pearson, isn't it?
Is that a guy? Is that a character you play?
No. It's a blank slate.
Okay.
Depending on what game it is, I just think Roberus Targaryen is a more interesting name than Robert.
Or would you call your cyberpunk character Roberto Targaryen?
No. I'd
Right.
absolutely, when I do get around to playing Cyberpunk, I'm going to be MJ Kefahuchi if I can.
Yeah.
Because that was fun. Some games don't even have enough space to be Roberus Targaryen.
Yeah.
Literally.
Oh, I love those moments.
And in which case I'm just Roberus. But I like both equally.
Bit more relaxed.
I agree with Rosie. I like both equally. I like being Cloud Strife in Final Fantasy VII and feeling cool and powerful. But equally, I like it when I've got to the end of something like Skyrim and my character that I have created is the champion of Skyrim, the Dragonborn, the guild master of the Mages Guild, the head of the Companions, the
And-
leader of the Dark Brotherhood.
And also the
Just
listener.
Everything. The list, yeah. All of these titles, and I've got all the sets of armor, and I feel like the world is reacting to me. But really, if everyone goes and plays those quests, they will be exactly the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't bother me either way.
Yeah, I'm definitely a mix and match kind of gal. Well, I like both the pre-made characters and making my own. I was never, ever, ever any good at making names because I always wanted like an original name. Like I got so worked up about doing them that when it came to making my Mass Effect character, that like I played loads of Mass Effect. I loved my Shepard, but my character's name was because I just pressed as many letters as I could. So I was like, I'm not going to see their
God.
first name, and I'm not having her called Jane. So and everyone calls her Shepard, so it's just going to be.
Customization in Elden Ring, it was so detailed, and I just could not get the face to look. I always try with customization. I always try to make it look like me. Elden Ring, I did not. Nose ridge couldn't
I
do
just
it.
don't bother.
So
Like,
I
who
didn't
knows
because-
what the underside of their eyes looks like?
I did. So eventually, I just gave up, and like my Elden Ring character had a really like flat nose and really pouty lips because I tried. And then there's one cutscene where my character didn't wear the helmet, and I was like, oh my god, I look hideous in this like a pivotal
I love
cutscene
that.
point. The one moment where, because I was like, I'm wearing a helmet. You're not going to see it. I always wear a helmet that pretty much covers my face. Bloodborne, I'm wearing a golden pyramid, so you know, no one knows what my face is like.
Can we see? Can we see what your Bloodborne character looks like?
That would be
Take
fun.
off the
Let's do
helmet.
that.
Take
Take
off
off
the
the
helmet.
helmet.
Take off the
We must see.
I do love this. This is a unique thing to video games, isn't it? When your customized character appears in a cutscene with other really well-designed characters.
Yeah.
And remember the last, maybe 2 or 3 general elections ago now, there was a place where, you know, one from the fringe parties was there, dressed up like multicolored clown outfit, basically. And there was a meme that was like, when your character appears in a cutscene. all these MP candidates just lined up in suits, and this one clown as well. That's what it's like.
Oh, right, guys, that was a lovely chat. Thank you. But now we're going to move on to the comments of the week. So it's time to get your singing voices ready.
Oh God, I forgot. Who's starting?
You.
Oh, okay.
Wait, which way are we going?
This way.
Same as
The way
always.
we always go.
Okay. Episode 4. We can do this. It's time.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time
for the comments of the week.
Oh, I was very
That was an
fast.
awful one. It got slower. It's like a dirge. Help us.
Let's do it again.
I'm going to
Do
be
one
more jolly. I'm
Yeah,
going to look more
a really
jolly
fast
this
one.
time.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time
for the comments of the week.
Okay, that
Very
was
good.
Too
good.
The
much
little
joy.
clap.
Maybe a bit too much joy.
And 1, and 2, and 3.
Can we do another one even faster?
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
hold on.
It's time.
Time.
My voice broke. Full of panic. It's time.
Oh God, so I broke. Yeah.
Woo! That's the music student in me coming out with those claps. Thank you, everybody. So it's time for comments of the week, which is from our hashtag Pod Squad. So the Pod Squad are lovely folk who use the hashtag Pod Squad in their comments and or social media interactions for us to read out on the podcast. Podcast. And then Alex looks at them all and makes me a nice list. So thank
Shout
you,
out to Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
Alex.
So the first one is from Jem Duduku, who says, loving the hashtag PlayStation Access, hashtag podcast, and the hashtag Pod Squad. But sorry
Covering
to tell
all the bases there. I like it.
My comment will be read.
And it has been.
Yeah, there we go.
Fair play.
But sorry to tell. Oh, actually, I
Oh,
don't want to read
no.
it. I don't want to read this.
Oh really?
I don't want to read it.
Okay,
I've
don't read it
decided
then.
I'm not going to read it.
Don't read it then.
I am going to read it. But I'm sorry to tell you, Thomas Crapper didn't invent the flushable toilet.
You were so sure.
on.
It was John Harrington during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I.
Oh.
First.
So who was Thomas Crapper then?
It's just
He invented. I saw another comment about this, which I chose not to engage with. He invented the.
I saw it too. The ball cock.
the flushy pull. Yeah,
Yeah, and maybe the U-bend.
Yeah, but
So
let's-
he did have a hand in the toilet.
He had several hands, and maybe a foot. Yeah, he was involved.
We've also got one that Alex has collected, which is about what we look like and what names suit us. Now, if you haven't seen our YouTube channel where we appear, this is very interesting, I think, because what names do you think we'd have if we hadn't told you them?
What, is this
So-
a comment from a listener? Only a
No,
listener?
this is from a viewer.
Okay.
So RD Clark 1994 says, Pod Squad, when I first showed my wife this channel, she couldn't remember everyone's name, so she came up with names for you all instead, based on what she thought you looked like. I'd love to know what you think of them and whether you agree or disagree with the name she chose. And
Based
it's
on
like,
what
Oh.
she thought we looked.
As in, like,
Yeah.
you look like Steve or whatever.
yeah. Well, you'll see what you look
Yeah,
like.
oh God, we've got
I
the
bet
name.
you look
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Steve now.
Okay.
And as a cheeky bonus for you to give my lovely wife Eloise a shout out, as we've had some hard times recently, and it'd be great for her to hear this from her new favourite channel. Shout out Eloise!
Hi, Eloise.
Consider yourself
May
shouted
rescind
out.
this shout out if we don't like the names you're
Yeah.
about to
Yeah,
give us.
that's right. I
Okay,
may
so,
retract this.
My name, I'm quite happy with my name.
Okay.
Roxy.
Wow.
I
Blimey.
can see that.
Roxy.
You've got
That?
Roxy, I
goth
feel like
metal thing going on.
I feel like, you know, the love interest, a manic pixie dream girl love interest with a name like Roxy. I'm like,
Roxy.
how high?
Wow.
I'm just
She's
going-
trouble.
I'm just going to Rosie's got one very similar. Robin.
Robin with a Y. With a Y or with an I?
My grandma grampy's called Robin.
With an I. Okay.
Oh
my
my
grampy's
God.
called Robin with an
Really?
She
I.
read you. She
My-
read you.
She knows my grampy.
Okay.
Robin, okay.
And then you guys' names
Yes.
are also of an essence as well. So
God. Well, Rob, Robin, Roxy.
yeah, Dave, you've got a similarly man name, which is Mark.
That's great.
Mark. Oh, because
she
of
thinks
Peep
of
Show.
you.
It's because of Peep Show. I'm Mark from
Mark.
Peep Show. Brilliant.
Just like Dave, Mark. I don't know. It just it's the same.
blah.
I like it. Nathan's middle name is Mark.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, Nathan. I forgot about him.
Yeah. Remember him?
Nate's also down here. Nate's is William.
William.
Yeah, I can see that. William.
Like Bill.
Regal.
Billy.
No, he'd be a William. He'd be a full
be a
name
William.
William.
Yeah.
Like he's a Nathan, not a Nate.
Yes.
He'd
Oh,
be-
definitely not.
Don't call
No,
him Nate.
Don't call him Nate.
Everyone,
Doesn't like
he
that.
hates it when he's
Yeah.
called Nate.
Just
Yeah.
if you guys are just podcast listeners, Nathan is a part of PlayStation Access, a
Wow.
founding member.
He's dead now.
Small part.
Yeah, well,
forgotten.
rest in peace.
Gone and forgotten.
he's left to do more behind the scenes stuff, which is why he's not on the podcast. But Rob, yours is Martin.
Martin and Mark. Oh my God, I can see
Oh my God, I can see Martin.
Martin. I can
I
see
can see it.
Martin.
Why Martin?
Martin.
I don't know
Mark,
the
did you
reason.
do it in a Rob voice?
By accident, I did, yeah.
Martin.
Martin.
Hello,
Martin.
I'm Martin.
Nice to meet you.
Hello.
You've caught me
Martin.
writing my birth certificate
Not
as
Marty.
Martin.
Marty
Mart.
at the party.
Do you like it, Rob?
Martin.
Sorry, you mean Martin.
No, I don't like being called Martin.
Martin.
I think the reason I don't like it is because it probably suits me.
That's probably why I don't like Mark either, yeah.
I think Eloise has made some very astute observations.
Yeah.
Which has sort of somehow captured our personalities in these fake names that we've been given.
Yeah.
I like Robin for mine.
I like Roxy.
You both got cool names.
Yeah, brilliant.
Sorry.
Well
Robin,
done.
Roxy.
Mark and Martin are cool
Mark
names.
and
Oh, shut up, Rosie. I'm sorry to any Mark or Martins
Welcome.
listening. but they're not cool names. Neither is Dave, neither is Rob. We've got rubbish, boring names.
Welcome to the PlayStation Access podcast with Mark and Martin.
See, I think Ash and Rosie are cool names.
They are cool names. Ash and
yeah.
Rosie are cool names.
They are. I like my name.
That's
Cool
it.
name.
I like Rosie's name.
Not Rosie,
so-
though.
No, I like them both.
Rosie's
I
really
like your
nice,
guys' names.
friendly name, Rosie.
Friendly
and
name.
Robin's a cool name, and Roxy's a cool name.
Yeah. If you want more horrible introspection about ourselves, though, we've also got a comment from Mischief Goblin that Alex has
good.
lined up,
Here we
which
go.
says, Pot Squad, if the team was supernatural creatures. So, Ash, again,
Okay.
another cool one. I'd be a lich, an undead mastermind behind the horror. Fine, good. Horned King, that's me,
Well
from Black
played.
Cauldron.
Yeah.
Rosie would be a kelpie, an innocent-looking thing that hides a dark side.
Oh, yeah, that is a
I was like,
really
what's a
good one.
kelpie? I thought it was a fish, but
Yeah, it's like a water creature. I think it's kind of like a seahorsey, mermaidy.
It's definitely a water creature, yeah.
Yeah, so like I think they're like seaweed horses is what is in my head, but I could be wrong.
I'm vibing with this.
Yeah.
My
Robin
horoscope
the
is.
seaweed horse.
Oh, that's
I mean,
cool.
my horoscope is a Pisces,
Yeah.
so I am one with the fish. I am
Wonderful.
a fish.
Well, you guys, Rob would
Here we
be a
go.
vampire. So like Ash, there you go. You're a master of trickery, but you have a totally different flair.
What's the flair?
I don't know, just like a cool, debonair, suave Martin the vampire.
Martin the suave
You suck the life out of everything.
Yeah, we did see.
Oh!
I was going to say we did see your beautiful new clothes. They were very suave.
That's Martin. Anytime Rob's looking good from now on, I'm going to call him Martin.
I'm getting the hypnotic vampire glare.
Yeah, that's right. He's using his
Rob-
fluence on you.
Rob
Move
thinks
on.
that he's been mocked a lot this week, when actually we've complimented him on loads of stuff, and
Yeah.
he just thinks it's mocking, but it's not.
He's not
It was
used to
all
the
the
compliment.
compliments were delivered in such a mocking way.
No, I told you I liked your hair. I said it was a good haircut.
Yeah.
Say exactly how you said it.
You did say it in a.
I'm sorry I missed this.
sassy
So I'm
way.
excited. You do have to do it now because I want to hear.
Okay, all right. I said, like your hair, Rob.
Yeah, that would make me feel sad.
But
As well.
I just meant to be like, what I meant to say was, oh, my friend, you've had a haircut. Looks good. Thumbs up.
Right.
Like, but that would be even weirder.
To be fair, and I complimented everybody It's just you took particular offence because you were
Yeah.
looking particularly good.
Yeah, but you did stare
You
at
came
him.
in, and in an annoyed way, you said, why is everyone dressed so well today?
Yeah, because I thought I'd forgotten something. I was like, I'm gonna stick out like a sore thumb here. Literally everybody in the office was looking super smart.
It's true. But you did then turn to Rob and go, "Oh, look at you, Mr. Fresh Shirt."
Well, I think it was a bit more unusual for Rob. It was more unusual for Rob to
Oh,
look
Rob!
so.
he keeps digging.
Sorry, Martin. Yes.
And Rosie also mocked Rob, calling him the old man before we started this podcast.
Yeah.
Did she?
No, that wasn't
Completely
me.
And
alone,
I-
was she,
no,
Ash, in that?
and I wasn't
Completely alone?
involved.
No.
Ash started it.
I did nothing.
No, Rob and Dave was saying how the channel's been around for 10 years because someone was interested in
This is
art.
what we
And
talk
then-
about outside
And then,
of...
Ash, and then Ash was in the corner and she just went,
10 years it's been.
Ash started it. She was in the corner and she went,
Oh, 10 years. I was there from the very beginning.
and so she started it, and then I just
You're
pitched
saying
in.
the evil mastermind behind the scenes.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
The lich.
Oh yeah, Dave. You. You just.
if it's like a pawn. You just be like a...
You're
What am I?
This is what it literally says. Dave would be a ghost forced by us and his friends, colleagues to relive the horror that ended him. So yes, a pawn.
Oh, great. Like a stone tape, just like reliving over and over and over again my
Yeah.
terrible death.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Good.
Who was that from?
That Mischief Goblin
Brilliant,
appropriately.
Mischief Goblin.
We're watching out
You're
for
on the list.
Mark the tormented ghost.
Rosie,
I do
the
appreciate
Kelpie.
this when they come in not as questions, though. They've actually given us...
Yeah,
we
I'll
are.
tell you what I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I do like it when you do. Yeah, when not about us. Just like, here's what I think. Deal
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. Mic drop.
You do have one question to finish this off, though, Rob,
Oh.
from Josh Schumacher, who says the real question for Rob: does Andy Serkis know about your Gollum?
No, he does not. Because the one time I met Andy Serkis, I was under strict instructions not to talk to him about Lord of the Rings, which
How did you not explode?
meant, well, because I'm a professional. So I was doing my job. He was a very, very nice man, though, and I suspect, had I actually done the Gollum impression, he would have been very gracious and accommodating.
I thought you were going to say grateful
And,
then.
I do regret it. I do regret just not, When am I ever going to meet Andy Serkis again? After it was finished, I should have just gone, bye, precious, or something.
I love the idea that you'd say bye. And what, like, because in your head, what's the perfect thing to happen? Is it for him to turn around and do Gollum back at you, and then you like embrace and you just Gollum at one another? Yeah.
I imagine you just go, yep, bye.
I like to think he turned around and do the finger guns of
I don't think he'd do that.
Imagine if he did though. Imagine if he just carried on walking and you just quietly to yourself was like, "Goodbye, precious."
This has definitely happened to him a million times, and I think he turns around and he goes, "That's one of the best I've heard," and then he walks away.
He would
and
say that to
doesn't-
me,
and
though.
He doesn't
would
mean
definitely
it.
say it to me. I've daydreamed about doing my Gollum impression for Andy Serkis, and him going, "That's the best I've ever heard."
Wow.
Because that would definitely be the case. So no, I didn't. He's not aware of it. I didn't do it in front of him, and I regret it.
Well, on that note, let's move on to before
Please.
we go. So here we are. Before we go.
We're back.
No.
Oh.
We delete. Shush.
Sorry.
So here we are. Before we go. And now the musical sting. And now we're back.
I'm so confused.
Can we talk now?
Sorry, Miss Millman.
This is my podcast. I'm hosting, and you will be silent when I demand it. So before we go, does anybody have anything they'd like to share? I do, everyone.
Oh, go on then.
Go on.
There's ants in the office.
I haven't
I
seen any of
actually-
them. I haven't seen any of the ants because they're down at Ground Zero, aren't they?
Yeah, away from our Sky
Not
Palace.
up in the Cloud District.
Yeah,
I
that
saw
doesn't mean
the-
anything to anyone who's doesn't work in our office, Rob.
But it will do now when we
Yeah.
explain it.
There's
Go
an
on then.
upstairs
Like
and a
downstairs
downstairs.
and upstairs. We call downstairs Ground Zero, and we call upstairs the Cloud District,
Yeah,
which is where we work in the Cloud District.
we do. And there's a floor above that where the studio is, and that doesn't have a name.
No, it doesn't.
That's so
Studio.
lofty.
It is.
Upstairs.
That's for
Heaven.
the special people only. You have to have VIP access.
Well,
That's
we're
where the
leaving
ghost
soon.
Mark haunts it.
Yeah. We are leaving soon. And we're going to have many floors there as well.
Same amount of floors.
Oh, there's the same amount of floors.
I think so.
It's exciting.
Well, yeah, but the ground floor there is just a door, basically.
Do we know who's going to be on what floor yet?
You're going to be on your own floor, and the rest of us will be on a different floor.
Don't worry, we'll still hear you, Rosie.
Okay, it's fine. I'll make sure you hear me. Every now and then I'll go to the floor and I'll just go, so you all hear me. Remember your little fiend upstairs.
How could we forget?
I do have something for the before we go. Besides the ants,
Yeah.
which is a new podcast I've been listening to. Right?
Ooh, go on.
A spooky one.
Oh,
And
I'm scared.
It's really good. I don't think you guys have heard of it. So it's called Uncanny.
Oh, no way!
Rob's face is just so still. This is the one that Rob recommended. It was good. I listened to it this morning.
You've listened to an episode?
Yeah, this morning.
Which one? Number one?
Yeah, the 611
Oh,
room
it's
611.
Scary, innit?
It's really good.
How many
It
of
wasn't
you-
what I expected.
How many have you listened to?
One.
Did you find it scary?
I find it interesting. I find
Then
it
you'll be fine.
chilling.
Yeah.
Do you know how many I've listened to?
0.
10.
Have you listened to all of them?
Yeah. So
There's 15.
if
You've listened to 2/3 of them.
yeah, if anyone has seen on the channel that whilst Ash and Rob were making the Lego toolnet on the stream, me and Emily were filming. We did a stop motion making of the Lego toolnet.
Please watch.
Please
it.
watch that video. It's
Please
amazing.
Please watch it.
Please.
It's a short on the channel. Enjoy. It's amazing. And obviously, it took a long time. Took a very long time. And there's no audio in that video because it's just pictures. It's just literally pictures. So we needed something to listen to. And Rob had gone on about Uncanny. So I thought, well, let's give it a
did
go.
go on.
I was like, Emily, are you feeling brave? I'm like, if either of us gets too scared, let's just say, and we'll stop listening to it. But we didn't. We listened to about 6 episodes, I think, and then I've listened to 4 since on my own.
It reminds me a lot of Haunted on Netflix, which is like a series of people's experiences that they've had, and they sit round and tell their friends and family in a little circle, and then there is a reenactment of what they've been through in like spooky, creepy ways, but the important part is like hearing them talk about it. It reminds me of that, and I really liked Haunted. So, you know what? I put it off for too long, Uncanny, and I'm glad I've listened to your recommendation, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to listen to some more, Rob.
Good. I'm glad.
You know that I said that I couldn't listen to the Battersea Poltergeist because it brought a poltergeist into my house.
Yes.
I have not been able to listen to Uncanny in my house. That's a rule I've set. I can only listen to it outside of my house.
Fair enough.
And even then, I'm having to dial back on it a little bit because the other night I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I was just like,
It's bad, isn't it?
convinced. Not that I wasn't convinced I was being watched or anything, or that there was a presence. I just felt like I'm going to see something.
Yeah.
I'm going to see something.
had
I'm
that.
going to see something.
Just putting the bins out at night
Yeah.
has never bothered me before, and all of a sudden, it sort of does.
It bothers
Yeah.
me because there's a fox that comes tips me bin over.
That's
Really?
no fox.
That's
Ash.
bad.
Well,
It's a badger.
It might be a badger.
Also, there's, I live in quite a rural area. There's often owls. So I go outside to put the bin out, and from maybe half a mile away, you just hear
There's
an
one
owl
trapped in here.
just echoing, and I just feel all the time like that.
Oh, that's good.
How'd you do that?
That is not documentary. That's Ash, everyone. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Oh,
I wish you could see Ash doing this.
Your eyes widen. Like blowing up a balloon right now.
there's a little one, a little owl, little baby owl.
Well, you can't be scared of hearing owls putting the bins out anymore,
Yeah.
Rob. You just have to picture Ash doing her owl
Ash
impression.
just stood in
Yeah.
a tree.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I saw the Shadow Man. I did see the Shadow Man.
What?
Well, I told you about my sleep paralysis.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so
awful.
I have seen the uncanny beings
Yes.
in the.
Do
Let's
you
not talk about
think,
that.
as someone who lives with sleep paralysis, that could be an explanation for what they're experiencing?
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
want to talk about this.
100%. Well, I don't. I had it once. I get nightmares a lot, but goth. But I've had sleep paralysis once, maybe twice, because I saw this guy a few times. But yeah, absolutely. And from friends' experiences and family experiences who've had sleep paralysis or have been on medication that's like changed the way that they sleep and interact with sleep, and that like line between being awake and asleep, you see some weird stuff. That's like, if you didn't know that it was because of these chemical reactions, or you weren't aware that you're prone to that, it would absolutely feel very supernatural. So I do think that sleep paralysis could be a one when it's nighttime stuff. I don't know, but the 611 guy, 611, he had all sorts of stuff going on. Anyway, it's the end of the podcast.
Wasn't
we really
just
should
him.
wrap up.
You should listen to it. Whoever is out there, not listen to it.
Yeah. Right. So everyone, thank you so much for listening. This has been the PlayStation Access Podcast, the official podcast of PlayStation UK. You can catch us on YouTube at PlayStation Access, where we have streams every Monday and Thursday. We have a store update every Tuesday, and we have featurey preview funness on Wednesdays and Fridays. So hopefully we'll see you there, as well as next time in your ears. I love saying it like that because there's a slight echo in the ear set that we use.
Yes.
And it goes like, whoa!
You should put some reverb on it.
I might do. When I edit it in Adobe Premiere Pro.
Adobe.
little name drop for Adobe. Little name drop for Premiere Pro there. Shout out Premiere Pro.
I love Premiere Pro. Right. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I've been Ash, joined by Rob, Dave, and Rosie. Say goodbye at the same time.
Bye.
Oh, very musical. And we'll see you again next time. Bye.
PlayStation